Yeah, formalities. Like, hi, Danny. How are you? How are the kids? This is season 2.
This is season 2.
So this is brand new.
What?
For anybody who didn't see season 1 of this show, this is Team Free Will, our podcast. This is my co-host and good confidant, Danny Wilt. And I myself, actually you introduced me.
This is Jackson Boyd,
Yep.
the co-host. We're both co-hosts, really.
Yep, co-host, co-pilots on the plane called Love.
Dude, this is really balanced right now. I just realized this. You're wearing black,
Yeah, black
and I'm
and white.
wearing white.
The blue jeans to balance it
It's
out.
the two serpents on the yin yang symbol.
gonna say-
Oh my god.
Oh, you're wearing it! Oh, that's wild.
That is, dude. This is crazy. This is
It's
meant
like
to
you
be.
knew.
Yeah, it is like I knew.
Okay, so this is a supernatural-based podcast for those of you who don't know what supernatural is. Why are you watching this? No, I'm kidding. Stick around.
Yeah,
you guys
stick
are gonna
around.
have fun.
Yeah.
But Supernatural is a show that we both really love. It's a show on the CW, supernatural-based adventures following Sam and Dean Winchester and their angel cohort, Castiel. So, it's good times. We're going to talk about it a lot. Yeah, there he is.
There he is right here.
Does he wear that tie?
He does.
A striped tie?
Yeah, at some point.
Is that a later tie?
Yeah, it's a later tie.
You know I'm weird about the
Yeah, I know.
attire.
The
Although
wardrobe.
Castiel not as... Well, he only really wears one thing.
Well, he actually has a lot of different
Trench
wardrobes.
coats, right?
Or not wardrobes, trench coats, yes, what you said.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the special effects and the visual effects on Supernatural.
Yes.
But before we jump on into the fire, let's talk about how we got back into doing season 2 because it's been a year.
Has it been a year?
It's been a year. Our last Symbols in Style was uploaded on YouTube in February.
Really?
Yeah, because I noticed one of the first things I noticed is that my glasses, I have new glasses. Like I was wearing my old glasses, so that's one thing that's new is I have new glasses.
Right. And I now have a full beard to show that time has passed. Like in a show, They always have to give the main character...
You know you can't grow a beard.
I can't.
I thought for a moment you were going to grow a mustache.
I wanted to, but something... I had to be in public around people, so I shaved it. I was like, I can't really get away with this for too long. So, I'm a little baby boy now.
So, I listen to I'm subscribed to some podcast on Google Casts or Google Podcasts, and one of them that I started watching was, or listening to, can't really watch it, it's called the Plaidcast. Shout out to the Plaidcast. It kind of rolls off the tongue.
It's good.
So, the night before I was listening to one of their episodes about Lazarus Rising, because what they do is they cover episodes, or they rewatch episodes, and then they talk about it to a great extent. And I was just watching that episode prior to that, and you made a comment about how on Sam's hair in that episode, you made a comment on the wide shots and how bright it is, and you were like, "Well, did they start introducing that in season 4? I don't think that was in season 3." And so basically everything we talked about that night when I was watching it, they covered on that podcast the next morning. And I was like,
It's good to know that there's other people as insane.
Yeah, right, because they were talking about the same stuff you were talking about.
That makes me feel a little better.
Yeah, like they were talking about Sam's hair, the pink paisley. I think they called it the pink paisley of bad decisions.
Oh, the Sam's shirt? Yeah. That's
because
a
I think he
terrible
was
shirt.
wearing it again when Dean catches him. When he comes back from being back in time, and then he's like.
He wears it in the Christmas episode too, I think.
Really?
At the very end of the Christmas episode, I think he's wearing it. It's a weird shirt because it's like red on the inside.
Yeah.
The pattern's on the inside. I'm not going to get into all that.
Yeah, it's
I
very...
literally could talk about it for hours.
It's a hideous looking shirt. And
Yeah, no, it's not a good looking shirt. But so another thing I think you mentioned to me they talked about was how Dean was borrowing Sam's clothing in that episode. Was that it? Something that happened? Or Bobby's, too.
I think it was I think it was Bobby's.
Because that entire episode, just so we're on the same page, that is season 4, episode 1, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Lazarus Rising.
Right.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's Dean's, I guess it makes sense because he just got out of hell.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't have access to his old wardrobe. So he's borrowing Bobby's clothes and then later Sam's clothes.
Yeah.
Which only I and like 2 or 3 other people in the known universe would notice. But that, the Hell's Half Acre blog that we talked about.
Yes.
Is that the same podcast? The people that did that?
Yeah.
Or is that something?
I was emailing Bethany from the Plaidcast.
Bethany.
Forget there's a camera right there.
Yeah, you gotta hit
Bethany Plaidcast. I was emailing her and she said that she watched our Symbols and Style episode, and the link that I put up when I was editing it, she said that the girl who made that website is their friend and is also part of that group, the Plaidcast group on Facebook. Check us out on Facebook. By the way, there's a group called Team Free Will Cast, so check us out there. But her name was Alex, I think. But she's the one who spent all that time cataloging.
That's a great website, man.
Yeah,
I used
it really
to
is.
frequent that website in my heyday when I was watching, when I was super obsessed with Supernatural, watching it all the time. I would go on that website every day, probably, because I'm a huge nerd.
Yeah, he is. He really is. I'm probably gonna link it down here. So I watched that and I was like, this is really weird. And so that sort of catapulted me into like being like, okay, Jackson, what day are we going to do this podcast?
Yeah.
Let's do it. It's going to be season 2.
Yeah, I'm glad we're getting back into it.
But so that's how,
lots
sort
to
of
talk about.
Lots to talk about.
This next season of the show is going to be the last one, right?
Yes.
It's going to be all over.
It is. It's going to be the last one. It's
Sad.
And you need to catch up.
I do.
I don't even remember what season you're stuck on.
Season 11.
11-ish.
It was 11. 11 was the last one that I was watching week by week. I watched all of the first 10 seasons. And then I got a few episodes into season 11, and then I dropped off. So yeah, I gotta catch up. Because I do want to watch the last season, if not week by week, then at least like somewhat in that, because I would really like to be able to watch the series finale live.
Yeah.
As it's airing.
Well, one thing that, and the reason why I picked the special effects to talk about, which is what we're going to be talking about, special effects versus visual effects, is because I know that I rewatched the first episode, because you mentioned that Leah you were trying to get Leah to watch Supernatural.
Yes.
I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Leah, my girlfriend, shout out Leah. Yeah, I want to get her to watch the show, and I myself want to get back into rewatching it. It's just a daunting task, man. There's so many seasons.
Yes, I know that my other sister Laura, who got married.
Woo!
Congrats to Laura. Congrats. She would catch up by watching Supernatural while she was at the gym or while she was working out, because I think she had some. Yeah, it was while she was working out, but. So I went back and I watched the first pilot, thinking like, man, okay, I just want to go back and rewatch this and see if it's the way that I remembered it. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I noticed is that the visual effects of the ghost, I guess...
Was it the lady in white?
Yeah, the woman in white.
Woman in white?
Yeah, of her getting like killed or going back to purgatory or whatever.
Yeah, I have a distinct memory of the blue flames surrounding when she like appears or gets sent back to wherever.
Yeah.
Being, I don't know why, I just have a very vivid memory of that. Specifically, like those blue flames around her.
Yeah, it's, but it was also very, you know how later on in the season it's just like, it's like kind of orange and they just kind of like dissipate, with this it was more like
a horror.
Yeah, it was. It was very scary. Like if I was easily scared, I would be scared by this. Not that you have to be easily.
But he's not. This guy doesn't get scared by anything. Except tax season. Am I right? Camber B. All right. Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna bother.
But yeah, the first. Well, I think they were trying to do a more of a horror element to the first season.
Yeah, it was
entirely.
It was pretty freaky. It was all distorted.
The bloody. Was it Bloody Mary? They did the Bloody Mary episode and all that stuff. They were kind of doing like, they did the Hook Man.
Yeah,
Wendigo, stuff like that. It was all like old
and,
legends.
This is a little side note, but I was because this week I like committed to this, so I was watching like all the episodes. Because what I'm gonna focus on specifically is going to be the how they portray demons in the first few seasons and how it's gotten better.
Yeah.
But I was watching all the episodes in season 1 and 2 that had demons in it, or specifically one, but it was
It was what before Azazel showed up. It was just one episode, right? Wasn't it?
No, there's like 4.
Really?
There's
Meg.
There's the I think I wrote this down. There's the Phantom Traveler.
Were there demons in that?
I actually did write this down. Yep, I took notes. See?
Oh, that's not the racist truck, is it?
No.
That episode's crazy.
No, there's the Phantom Traveler, which is the airline
that's the
one.
Yeah, that's the one I remember. Because I remember them being like, demons. I've never seen a demon.
Yeah.
Ever. And then it's...
Yeah, and then
it's funny to look back at.
It's just great to look back at, and I did some research, and by the way, I'm not wearing white socks. I hope you're proud of me.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank
I don't.
God.
I avoid it now. And now that I got the Marvel socks that Laura and Dennis got me, like, yeah, no.
So,
that was his, like, biggest...
Yeah, man, white socks are out.
Yeah, they're
Totally
out.
out.
I think they're out for me.
I'm wearing beer socks. Black beer socks.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
To celebrate.
So, what was I just saying before I went on?
You were talking about the Phantom Traveler.
Oh, yeah. So, there's something before that. Anyway, I'm having a brain fart right now.
Brain fart.
Brain fart time. Anyway, so in the Phantom Traveler, that shows up 5 times.
Demon?
Season 1, episode 4. Not the Phantom Traveler, I'm sorry. Demons show up about 5 times in season 1.
Oh, in season 1.
Because I thought it was just twice.
Was that include Meg?
Yes, but here's the weird thing. They don't establish her as a demon until she's in that demon trap.
Is it really?
Really. It's weird. I had to, like, go back
remember the episode where she, like, die or like falls off a building, right?
Yep.
That's before that.
Yep. So to the person who's watching like the second time, you know that she's a demon. So with that in mind, it's episode 4, episode 11, a scarecrow. Meg's in that. She's just she's introduced and you see her. She's introduced to Sam because she's trying to hitchhike.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so she's introduced.
Because they have a little moment.
Yeah. But when I first watched it, I remember thinking that she might be a witch because she's cutting the dude's throat and communicating with that cup of blood. And like, is that like a witch communicating with a demon?
Yeah.
So that's like the introduction of Meg. Episode 16 shows. Episode 16 is called Shadows with the Devas.
Oh yeah.
And Meg's controlling the Devas.
I remember the Deva.
And they
that never came back, did it? The Deva character?
It's technically a demon.
That was kind of a cool little thing.
But it was cool, yeah. They're shadow demons, basically. Yeah, it was kind of cool. It's like a hellhound, but...
Bring back shadow demons.
Yeah.
Bring back shadow demons, Supernatural.
Bring it back.
Season 15.
Season 15. So... She falls to her death. That's the episode where she falls to her death, but we see her survive. But it's still not stated that she's a demon. Like, we don't see black eyes. We don't see smoke.
Okay.
So we don't know what she is. And in episode 21, Salvation, that's when we see Meg, and she has black eyes.
Right.
At one point in that episode, we see her with black eyes. And then episode 22, The Devil's Trap, we see Meg... that she can be trapped with the Seal of Solomon, and then after she's trapped by the Seal of Solomon, that's when they're like, oh, she's a demon.
And then she does the eye thing.
Afterwards.
Right.
I'm
a demon. I'm gonna kill you.
No, actually in that episode she doesn't have black eyes.
She doesn't?
No. There's 2 other demons in that episode. So this is the first episode where we introduce more than one demon in an episode. and there's 2 other demons.
That season was very monster of the week.
Yeah, but even as they're introducing demons, they're not very consistent about it. Yeah, that's when they learn. Okay, so when they have Meg trapped in the Seal of Solomon, that's when Bobby's like, you're going to kill her. That's a girl with a demon possessing her. And they're like, oh, there's a demon in her?
There's a demon in her.
So why would you do the Seal of Solomon if you didn't think it was a demon?
Oh yeah, that is true.
It's weird.
I didn't think about that. Wait, I would have to go back and rewatch it because I don't remember.
Yeah. Yep. I had to go back and watch that. I had to watch that particular scene like 3 times.
I remember there's a line where Dean says something like, "I'll walk into hell and kill every last one of you bitches," or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. No, that was a good.
I remember he's wearing his denim button down and a dark gray shirt underneath. That's what I remember.
And I know that the Seal of Solomon is actually a real thing. It was actually a ring that he wore to control evil spirits, evil and good spirits, and demons. So the Seal of Solomon was originally a ring, and it's a real.
Wait, what?
It's a real thing.
Who wore it?
King Solomon.
Okay.
King Solomon. It's all right. King Solomon wore it. It was a ring. And it's not Shakespeare. Anyway, so yeah, so and you also see more smoke in that demon smoke. You see more demon smoke, and you see 2 other demons with black eyes, but you don't see smoke. And then Yellow Eyes smokes out. So in Phantom Traveler, when you see the smoke, it's like this small, wispy, it looks like ink blots. It kind of just like floats in the air. It's very small, but it enters their body through their eye. And that happens multiple times in the episode. And the reason for that is that the guys that they had were paying to do the visual effects were hired outside. It was out of house, basically. Oh. They weren't doing their own visual effects.
Oh, okay.
And they didn't get their hands on that till season 2. They started doing it in-house. And then that's when they have... Because I think there's like 4 different versions of the demon smoke. But that's when they started to perfect it, basically. So when they started doing it in-house in season 2, it was more smoky and it moved more. Mm. And then when they did like the 3rd iteration, it was more weaving, like kind of like a snake.
Yeah.
And
because it's like an entity.
Yeah. So in episode 4, you see it as this weird little wispy thing, and that enters through the eye. Now, in Salvation, you don't see smoke through all these episodes. Like, it's just, if you've seen Supernatural, you know that Meg's a demon. When they exorcise Meg finally, that's the first time you see smoke, but like real smoke. So I don't know what, I guess the guys who were working for them like perfected the demon smoke or whatever, but you see that come out of Meg and it's a lot.
So wait, that's a special effect, right? Like
that's a visual effect. Special effect is when it's done.
Oh no.
So special effects are applied on set during production. Visual effects are done in post-production. So
I can't believe I set it up too.
You did.
I didn't even know he had the whiteboard. I remember now you saying you had a whiteboard.
Oh yeah,
I forgot.
It was behind me the whole time. And so you can do optical, or for special effects that are applied on set, you can do optical or mechanical. Optical is like using lights or the camera to manipulate the scene, and mechanical would be creating objects or environments. So like a fake arm, for example. That's a special effect, and that's done like on the set, and it's used on set. Don't.
I got it. Used on set.
A visual effect is done in post-production. So that would be like CGI, 3D rendering, animation.
In my head, I had it reversed.
Yes, a lot of people do. 3D or animation and chroma keying. So like Jar Jar, that's.
Are you gonna bring up Jar Jar?
I want to bring up the worst thing because I want to call it out. Let's just call it how it is, man.
By the way, I want to set this scene for the people who are listening to the podcast because
true.
I feel like we're doing a lot of visual stuff right now. So my buddy Danny is currently holding a whiteboard with a bunch of information on it, like he's a middle school substitute teacher. Trying to teach everybody about visual effects.
The thing is that you're not complaining.
I'm learning.
He's learning.
And knowledge is power.
It is power. So, like, okay, the 3D rendering, I had to figure out what the difference between 3D rendering and CGI was, but 3D rendering is when you take a 3D model and you render it to a 2D monitor, basically. So, like Pixar.
Okay, yeah.
Because those are 3D models, but it's on a two-dimensional screen. Animation, Scooby-Doo. I was just saying Scooby-Doo to shout out to the Scooby-Doo cartoon episode.
Also haven't seen that.
If you have not seen that, you need to see that.
Yeah.
So that's actually a good example of Supernatural using visual effects in post-production because
which they don't really do a whole lot of CGI and stuff like that.
They don't.
Which is probably good.
That brings me to my next subject in a second here. And the fourth one's chroma keying, which I wrote down Avengers because if you ever look at the on set,
it's all green.
It's all green. Yeah. It's all green.
Or the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah, even their costumes, like Captain America,
or the Hulk.
Iron Man, the Hulk. Iron Man has like the top part, the shoulder part, and then the rest is green. You know, or the little dots.
Yeah, like in Endgame. Spoilers, even though it's been like a month.
Are we gonna spoil this?
Yeah.
And all they're going to see.
And that's what happens in the movie Endgame.
There you go. So basically a lot of people rely on visual effects more than special effects because it's cheaper. And you wouldn't think it would be cheaper, but it is cheaper. So that's why a lot of movies you don't see a lot of...
Really?
Yeah, you don't see a lot of visual effects used that often in movies. You know, that's why it's like, you know, green screen. It's cheaper. You don't have to build a set.
My favorite movies that rely a lot on special effects, the not digital ones, are the old zombie movie. Romero, the old Day.
Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, and Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the
Dead.
Dead.
That's a great one. The original Dawn of the Dead.
Terminator is a good one. But here's what I was going to get to about, you know, you said Supernatural doesn't really use a lot of visual effects. They use both. Mm-hmm. They heavily use special effects, but they also use visual effects to accent the special effects. So what they'll do is they'll have blood, right? They'll have like the prosthetic blood or the throat slit, whatever. So they'll have that, and they'll have some makeup effect like blood, but then they'll go back in post-production and they'll put more blood, or they'll highlight it, they'll bring it out.
Right.
So there's one scene, can't quite remember. It was with a clown. I don't remember what episode it was.
Season 2, episode 1?
Probably. Anyway, there was blood splatter on the clown's face, but it was like they had to, and later on in the episode they had to put it in digitally because they couldn't recreate the way that blood had splattered on the mask that they were going to be using later on.
Okay.
So they had to go back and they had to sort of recreate the way that. So what I assume what they did is they took a bunch of pictures from that scene of the mask. It was on the floor. I think. Right. And they took a bunch of pictures of it and then went back and looked at the pictures and mapped it back onto the mask so you wouldn't know.
Can I do an interlude? One of my favorite special effects ever done. And it's really simple. And I cannot remember the name of the guy. He's a very famous horror special effects artist. He's very famous in that world. But in Dawn of the Dead, when they were getting shot in the head, they would just take like a quarter or a nickel and with a string and just like with skin coloring on it and just like pull it to do like the bullet hole in the head, and I love that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that that's really ingenious. You know, the you know those pumps that people use to water plants. We were shooting a short film called Madhouse, and then there's a scene in Madhouse where the girl gets her eye gouged out by a knitting needle. And what we did for the blood splatter was we used that pump, and so we had it filled with fake blood, and we had a little tube coming out, and you know we had the camera roll, and we're like, he's like, okay, action. And we wait a second, we just hit that pump, and it splat against the wall, like that.
That's cool.
So there's a lot of cool stuff that a lot of ingenuity. There you go. Involved in making this happen on set, because you know.
Yeah, and one thing that bugs me, and I'm sure you're ready to talk about it too, and so like big example is season 7 of Supernatural with the Leviathans.
This is the goal. This is where I was going to.
Yeah, I kind of figured, because with the visual effects, it's, I don't know what it is. You would know better than me. I don't know if it's the budget issue or what it is, but it just can get really cheesy, man. And the biggest one for me is the Leviathan stuff in season 7, like the visual effects with the Leviathans. Just not a fan.
Not a lot of people were a fan of that. Yeah. They did that one other time because you know I did my research. I looked up all this stuff, and the only other time that they did this, and I could not believe it, but it was the Wendigo episode.
Really?
Yeah. And it was hard to tell because it's very dark and shadowy when you see the Wendigo, but. Because I thought they were using special effects. I thought they had some prosthetics, a guy in a costume, because that's what it looked like. And at one point they did, especially when they lit it on fire. Like when they actually had to interact with Wendigo, they had a guy in a costume, and you could tell. But so when you first see its face and it kind of roars, its mouth opens really wide, and I had to like pause it for a second, like really look at it, and I was like, huh, that's done digitally.
Yeah, because that's not something they really do often, right?
No, it's not
with the monsters.
It's
anymore.
not. They try to keep it,
which is smart, because then you have shows like Doctor Who, which I was a big fan of for a long time as well. But that show obviously relies very heavily on visual effects because it's aliens and space and all this stuff. But a lot of that stuff can get really cheesy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Really cheesy.
So the Leviathan thing, I don't know. I don't know if it was like just cheaper or if they had no idea how to portray a Leviathan without.
Leviathans are supposed to be like sea monsters, right? Isn't that what they are? Originally?
It depends, but who was it? Lovecraft, I think, is the guy who because they have him in the episode.
Oh, is that a Lovecraft thing?
Yeah, that's a Lovecraft thing. That's why they had him in the episode.
Was biblical.
He had it is sort of biblical. At least that's how they wrote it in the show, but that's how he wrote in the show. That's how they connected the two, was that Lovecraft knew about Leviathans and wrote the book about or wrote a short story about it. But
so they need to do a Cthulhu episode.
They should.
Season 7, man. I love the season.
Mm-hmm.
I do. But the Leviathans, not so much.
So.
Sorry. We gotta kill these Leviathans. Okay.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna do a little shortcut instead of looking this up on my tablet. Tell me about Leviathans.
According to Wikipedia, Leviathan is a creature with the form of a sea monster from Jewish belief, referenced in the Hebrew Bible in the book of Job, Psalms, the book of Isaiah, and the book of Amos.
The book of Amos? Oh man. Okay. Okay, so the Book of Amos had Jewish Leviathans.
Yes.
That's what I've learned today. Yep. And I've learned that, and I've learned about visual and special effects. So I'm coming along.
You are.
So, with the visual and special effects, I mean, I know that's a big like the budget and stuff is why I guess maybe they make every monster is pretty much human. You know,
Yeah.
That's a running thing that you always notice.
And they use special effects to do like teeth. And stuff like that.
There's always something like that. But at the end of the day, they're all humanoid sort of thing. They don't really going back to like Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Doctor Who is always the aliens are always in costumes, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's special effects, sometimes it's CGI, but they're usually humanoid.
Yeah.
Which I always think is
The
interesting.
first thing that pops in my mind that you would think they would use CGI for, but they don't, are the dragons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They actually do it. In my opinion, I think they should have done it. I think they should have used CGI to do it, and
To
actually,
make actual dragons.
yeah, because
Yeah, that would have been crazy though.
or like at least be subtle about it, like they did with Wendigo.
Yeah.
Like they didn't really interact with Wendigo until it was on fire.
Yeah.
But like you can be really subtle, and it can also be really scary when you do that about it, you know. But like, I had a huge problem with them having those buff dudes playing the dragons. That was just weird to me because like every other monster is humanoid, like a werewolf. And if you watch Wolfman or Dracula, they're humanoid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like why would you take something that's not humanoid and make it humanoid? And that's another beef that I have with Leviathans is like, but I mean I don't know how else they would have done it.
Well, that was my biggest thing is, other than the effects themselves, was that to me, in my head, from what I knew about Leviathans, they're like big, you know. But again, like you said, how do you really do that on a cable or like a network show? And that's the limitation I think they have, and they work well with it. I mean, they certainly do very well with the limitations they have, but especially for being such a what has become in the later seasons such a like fantastical show. There's like a lot of fantasy elements and stuff too.
Good word, fantastical.
Thank you.
I like that. I like that he used it.
SAT prep.
Fantastical.
Fantastical. Yeah, there's a lot of. I don't remember my original point, but a lot of humanoid. Yeah, a lot of everything's humanoid.
Yeah.
Which for the most part works, but sometimes it's like, you're supposed to be monsters, you know?
Yeah. So one thing that's interesting is that I'll use the Wendigo episode again for an example, is that they had a guy in a suit and it was on fire. Like the fire was real. Mm-hmm. But what they do, so that's a special effect, but when they do in post-production is they add flames to it, so it's more on fire. And you can sort of tell when it's first on fire that it's like, well, that's a visual effect. But then when it goes back and the fire's kind of dying down, you're like, oh, that's real fire. Mm. And the holy oil rings they do, that is not real fire, and you can it's obvious.
Yeah.
And the reason why, and this is so cool, is that if they used real fire, it would suck up the oxygen.
Oh. Yeah.
And it would potentially cause like an overdose of CO2.
Wow.
So they wanted to avoid that. So they used fake flames. So that's something that they did in post-production. And then there are other things that they do both in production and in post-production, like fire and blood and stuff like that. Like, you know. So one thing that was cool though, and this is why I focused mainly on the demon part in season 1, is I looked up the black eyes, and they only used the black contacts in season 1.
Oh, really? The rest of the time it was...
go on and say it. You can do it.
It was a visual effect.
Yeah, you go. Yes, it's a visual effect. And the reason why they did that was because the more the actors were moving around and acting, because they're actors.
What?
I know, right? The more the contacts would move, and you can see the white in their eye. So, so it was a really interesting thing, and I have because you can see it. Like after I read that, and I went back and I watched some of these episodes, I went back and I was like, oh, there it is.
How do you do that? How do you make the eyes black consistently as an effect?
You just go in and you key it over. You know, I guess you would have to map their eyes when they're moving throughout the scene and everything.
I imagine
but
them
usually
just wearing like bright green contacts
Yeah.
that they have to chroma key.
Yeah, no, they don't have to key any of that stuff in like that. But the where was it? I had an image on here. And I was gonna throw up on the TV, on the television.
Let us know in a comment whether you're watching this as a video or listening to it on a podcast form. What your favorite and least favorite special and visual effects are. And if you don't know the difference between special and visual effects, please rewind and learn.
I love how you're filling in the silence.
Go back to the whiteboard, you know? Go back to the whiteboard segment. That's what we're going to call it. Every episode's going to have a whiteboard segment.
It's kind of, dude, you promise?
I know you would love that.
Oh, buddy.
We got to let you have your thing, you know? So, what I was going to say. What? Are you loading up? Move out of the way, Castiel.
Yeah, right there. You see the white in his eye?
Okay, yeah. Okay. Was that in the show?
Mm-hmm.
Like
this is
that?
Phantom Traveler.
Okay, you know what? I remember that. That actually makes sense.
And here's the wispy looking smoke going into his eye. Like, that was it.
Okay, I'm down for that.
No,
yeah,
you're
very different.
Yeah, it is. It's very, like, I couldn't quite put my finger on it because it didn't move like
so
smoke.
much more violent in the later seasons. The way that they
Mhm.
like, especially like when it leaves.
Yeah, because when it was floating around, it was very slow and like kind of floaty.
You know, one thing that always bugged me. It was actually in season 1 when Meg. It was the scene when Meg and she's under the Solomon thing, and they're all having a little moment.
Yeah.
In one of the last episodes of season 1, and then finally Meg, or I guess the demon that's in Meg.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a
Yeah.
second.
Okay. Leaves, and she's like screaming. It's like that's very violent. I remember that. It's like smoke, and she's like, ah.
That's the first time they did that.
Okay, so she's screaming, and it always bugged me that the audio loops, and you can hear it. It's very like clear, and it was to me that it's like you know, it's like subtle.
Speaking of audio, in this episode, it is the first and last time you hear them distort the demon's voice when they speak. Because in every other episode, every demon speaks with the vessel's voice. This one, they distorted his voice, and it was like the first and last time they did that.
Was it deep? I don't remember.
It was like, it wasn't deep. It was like your typical monster sounding voice.
Oh, okay.
You know what? I'll probably at some point in this podcast, I'll probably edit in a monster voice so we sound like that.
They did.
Find the demon, yes, within you. At night, enter Sandman.
Can I say that? That's copyright. Yeah, there was a lot of different demon stuff going back to in season 1. For those who didn't see, we had an episode about like inconsistencies and stuff, and that was one thing was the Cristo, which I guess they have now addressed in the show. Is the Cristo thing? Wasn't there an episode where they did it again? Didn't you tell me that there's an episode where they brought the Cristo thing back? Oh, my voice cracked.
I think so. Are you growing up now?
Yeah.
Are you becoming a man
I
now?
can grow a beard now.
All right. You promise?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, that was a big thing. I was like, why did they never bring the Cristo thing back?
Yeah.
Like that was a pretty glaring, like that had to have been very useful.
Yeah.
Throughout many times.
And I got this information from IMDb, but I don't know how right or wrong I am. If you're watching this or listening to this, you can leave a comment or email us at
teamfreewillcast@gmail.com.
That's right, teamfreewillcast@gmail.com.
Not Cass.
Not Cast. CAST. Or you can direct message us on Instagram at Jackson L. Boyd or at the letter C, Danny Wilt, and let us know this. But on IMDb it said that Cristo is actually Italian for God, and that the Latin word for God is Christa. Which
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not sure. So, let us know. But the one thing that, getting back to Meg, since we're on like a demon kick here.
Yes.
She is listed as the unknown demon possessing Meg Masters, right? I think, this is just a theory I have, but I think Meg Masters was like a witch who died, or at least asked for this in a sense, or summoned a demon, and then the demon possessed Meg.
Maybe, yeah. Because she just goes by
Because
Meg.
she just goes by Meg, even when she's not in Meg's body.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that really got me thinking. I think she was a witch who performed that ritual, like in that episode Meat Swap.
Yeah.
When those kids, I just watched that episode. It's
Crazy
great
name
anyway.
for an episode.
Yeah, it's just when they switch bodies, but or swap meat, not meat swap.
Okay.
Swap meat, swap
All
meat,
right.
swap the meat. Is that empty? You're trying to do a thing, but it's empty.
No, it's still half full.
Okay. Well, that's optimistic.
Thank you. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is weird. I never actually thought about that. Or maybe I did once, but yeah, it is weird that she just goes by Meg. Because that was...
Even when she's not in Meg Master's body, she's still Meg Master. So I think she...
But you know, the demon stuff always really confused me, man. Because it's
Yeah.
like some of them are vessels, like, or some of them were demons that are in a vessel, but some of them are also, like, aged
I
in
think-
that body.
I don't know which ones are aged in that body exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it seems
But
different.
But it's like, so when a human soul is in hell and it's twisted and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
becomes a demon, that's why Crowley has like his vessel and he actually has a real body that's just like bones,
Right.
which
But
he keeps because
for
if he
like that
burnt-
case, it's like who is Crowley's body? Like what is?
who's
is
the
that?
dude?
You know, is it just Mark Shepard?
I don't
just
know,
real life
just
Mark
like,
Shepard.
It's Mark Shepard, real life Mark Shepard got possessed by a demon.
I mean, maybe, because there was never any like allusion to that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Team Free Will. Oh, sick! Is this the next part? Is this the ending?
No, we will do this later on.
Okay.
I was just throwing this up here though.
Okay.
He got really excited. That's cute.
Q&A.
That's cute. Yeah, so if you're watching this on YouTube, but especially if you're listening to this on a podcast, we're going to be doing a Q&A that we're going to upload to YouTube, so you can check it out there. We won't include it on the podcast, so
Yeah.
you have to watch us
It's
on
going
YouTube.
to be a bonus feature.
It's going to be a bonus.
And you have, what is it? You have to watch us on YouTube to be able to see it, to be able to get
To
it.
ever to be able to, if you submitted a question, to hear your answer, to hear the answer to your question,
Or
yeah.
to even just hear the answers to the questions.
Or, yeah.
If you're an inquisitive type, which
Mhm.
I assume you are, then you gotta watch the YouTube video to get the link to watch the bonus YouTube video. Bonus content, baby. It never stops. We never stop creating content.
We never stop.
The grind seldom stops.
Except for that year.
Well, that 1 year was...
That 1 year was, a lot of stuff happened.
you know, a speed bump, one would say. But now we're back on the road. 45
Yeah.
miles per hour.
That's right.
Open lanes.
The road so far. Traveling down the road so far. Should we sing that song? Nah, let's not sing that song. But one thing I did want to also talk about that I thought was crazy as far as demons go, and this, I guess this has to do with, since they were hiring other people outside of the studio and everything. So the episode Salvation, yeah, there's two other demons.
Which episode is that?
That's episode 21.
Of season 2?
Season 1.
Season 1? Oh, okay.
Season 1. And what had happened was... Season 1, let me pull up my notes again. My notes on my tablature. Yeah, okay. So... Oh, I'm sorry. Episode 22. Devil's Trap. You see two other demons that are... that are two people who get possessed by demons. But the way this happens is that I think they're planning on using smoke, but you don't see smoke. They just sort of, and then that's it. They sort of like get this weird like chill, like they just tense up, but their mouth opens as if smoke was supposed to go in.
Really?
Yeah, but you see like weird black vein part comes up here and then that goes away.
You know what? I vaguely remember that.
And you see them with black eyes, but not Meg with black eyes. Meg gets the smoke. These two guys get black eyes, but no smoke. That all enters them.
You either get black eyes,
Yeah,
or smoke,
or smoke.
not both.
Basically, that's basically true.
There you go.
Or, yeah.
It was like a hierarchy thing.
Their hierarchy of
because they did have that. That is a thing, right? Like the demons have like a
yeah. You have
yellow eyes.
You have well, this is going to be in the. This isn't really a spoiler for you, but it's going to be even though you haven't seen this season, they introduced Princes of Hell.
Okay.
Which is what Azazel was.
Oh.
And then you have there's like 4 of them. So they're basically the equivalent to archangels. They're like really powerful. But you have Azazel, one that starts with the D, another one that's
Derek, the Prince of Hell.
That's right. Derek, the Prince of Hell. And then below that you have Hell Knights, which is what Abaddon was. They were created by Cain. And then below that you have crossroad demons.
Right.
And then you have like your regular demons.
Infantry.
And then devas and stuff like that. But that's pretty much it for on my end about the special effects and the visual effects. But what Supernatural does do is they use both. They don't rely on just one, and a lot of shows do that.
Yeah.
There are some movies who have the budget to do. Not said it was cheaper to do visual effects, which is true. But if you want good visual effects,
it's expensive. I mean, even looking at like the Black Panther movie,
yeah,
which was a huge budget.
Can you imagine having to build a set like that?
No.
So I imagine to some degree
in that weren't great. You know?
Well, they weren't, and I like the Marvel movies, but a lot of the movies, the special effects they use while they have actors in the scene is weird. Like for example, like when Jackal and Black Panther were fighting.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was weird because they were CGI'd.
Yeah.
So it's like
yeah, it's
so it looks really strange. Or even in the Venom movie when Venom and it wasn't Riot.
I didn't see that.
So but when they were fighting, it even looked like a video game cutscene. That's exactly what it looks
Has
like.
anybody seen the movie Spawn? Because that's a great example. Because that whole movie looks like a video game. Any of the visual effects.
They were just getting into that though. I think that was in '98 when that movie came out.
That was like right in the awkward time.
Oh, dude, if I can pull that out because I have it. Okay.
You have Spawn?
Yes, but here's the thing. I kept. I don't know. I kept it. I rented it from Blockbuster Video, and I kept it. Never gave it back. And I'm like trying to hope that I can find it or whatever. But maybe that'll be the thumbnail for this video.
You're gonna have to pay a fine. You know that, right? When Blockbuster finds you, they're gonna break your legs. They don't call it Blockbuster for nothing. They're gonna blockbust your kneecaps.
They're gonna bust my ass and kneecaps.
Goodness.
Yeah, man. The Spawn is a good example of, in my opinion, of good special effects. So like the prosthetics for his burnt face and everything in his suit. But that was actually done well. But the CGI part,
God, it was terrible.
I think it was terrible now. But I think back when that movie came out, you wouldn't watch it and be like, "Oh, that's terrible." You would watch it and be like, "Oh, cool, that makes me want to play the video game."
Right. Yeah. No, that's right.
I think for its time, it was all right. It was adequate. And it's the same when you go back and you watch Phantom Menace and you see some of the CGI in that. Mm-hmm. Like it's not. It's better than what they do with Spawn, but it's not as good as they're doing now with like Avengers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's and even in the movie Predator, they used. This is another example of special effects being used alongside of visual effects. Is the blood, the green blood. Yeah. So they had green blood they used, but to make it glow, they had to use visual effects. So they used special effects on the set and then visual effects as well.
It's like supplementing it. It's like making it better.
Yeah, it's icing on the cake.
Icing on the cake.
So I don't know what else. You got anything else you want to say before we go into the Q&A.
To the Q&A. No,
Anything
not
much
really. I learned a lot, actually, and I didn't know really any of that. So, learned a lot today.
Learned a lot.
Glad I could. So yeah. So, parting final things. What's up?
Subscribe to our channel on YouTube.
Subscribe.
Team Free Will.
Team Free Will.
Check us out.
YouTube.com.
No, it's youtube.com/Team Free Will.
YouTube.com/Team Free Will. Subscribe. We need subscribers to keep this going. You know, you guys are the blood that runs in our veins.
Yeah, if we didn't have the demon blood, if we didn't have people listening to this, I don't know if we would continue to do this. We might do it for our own pleasure. We'd probably have these conversations, but we wouldn't record it.
We have done that.
We have done that. In fact, I think that's pretty much how this podcast got started.
Yep.
But so there's that. We are also on the primary website that we use for our podcast is anchor.fm.
Which, if you're listening to the podcast, there should have been a message or an advertisement for that.
Oh, we're gonna have to record that.
Yeah, somewhere in the podcast.
Yeah, it's gonna be before the podcast actually starts. But it's anchor. It's anchor.fm// Team Free Will, and we have our podcast they put the podcast on different platforms as well. So we're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, all kinds of stuff. Google Podcasts is a good one.
Yeah,
that's the one I use. I'm actually subscribed to our own podcast on Google Podcasts.
Very cool.
Yes, and there's also a donation button if you want to donate. Also check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/Team Free Will Cast. You can enter that and you talk about the episodes and everything, what you want to see, because that's also another thing we want to know, like what you want to see, and we want to know your thoughts. So you can check that out on Facebook. You can email us at teamfreewillcast@gmail.com. Lastly, is you can also we set up a Patreon account.
Yes, Patreon.
I
knew about that one.
Patreon. Team Free Will. We're up there just as Team Free Will. Some of the stuff is Team Free Will Cast, but it's Team Free Will, and you can make a donation, and there are different tiers. If you donate $5 a month, then you'll get your name. You'll get a shout out, a one-time shout out on our podcast and on our video. If you donate $6, and that's going to be what did I call that?
I can't remember. But
Blood Junkie.
Blood Junkie.
Because there are different tiers, and so the first one's Blood Junkie, and then the drop out with $6 to his name, or just drop out with $6. That's a $6 a month, and you'll get a shout out.
Clever.
Yeah. You'll get a shout out in our podcast and in our videos, and then you'll also get a permanent credit at the end of the video. So every time we put a video out, you'll be credited as a patron. And then if you want to donate $7 a month, that's Mr. Comatose. And then we'll do the shout out. You'll be credited, and then also you can submit to us 3 questions that we will answer on YouTube and on the podcast. So you won't have to go to YouTube you can listen to our answers, and they can be about supernatural, about anything that you want, but 3 of them, and we will each answer them. So yeah, you got 3 tiers there, so check that out at Patreon.
Check out that Patreon. Donate.
Yes.
Keep us going.
Yes, and there's a goal I have there on the website too, and it's to buy better mics. So that's the goal here. So all the money that we'd be getting from donations
into the podcast
is going into getting better equipment, so we can provide you guys with.
We're not going to be spending it all on gummy worms.
No, we're not going to spend
as much as I want.
As much as we both want to, man, and gummy worms and hookers. But
stuff, right?
Yeah. So.
Seriously, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you listening or watching or both, and we appreciate you. You know?
Yeah.
We appreciate you.
So tune in for the next episode. I still have ideas going in my head. Well, I always have ideas going in my head when you think about it. But
yeah, we've certainly got plenty of stuff that we would love to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, we could talk for hours about stuff, but give us your thoughts of what you want us to talk about as well, so we're not spinning our wheels talking about something that might be boring
Yeah,
to other people.
that's true.
I would love to talk about all the colors of Dean's button downs. I could do many episodes about it, but I don't know if you guys want that, or maybe you do. Won't know until you tell me.
Save that for like pillow talk or something like that.
I do.
All right, thanks, and this is where I'm going to cut the video right here.